Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my kitchen in Baltimore. My name's Peyton, and this is Life Should Be Delicious. We are going to quickly make some bruschetta, the dish that'll get you invited back. This has always been my go-to for parties and stuff like that. It is a little tough to travel with, I will admit, but you can also make it at their house, and it's a big crowd pleaser. So, first off, you're going to need a bunch of tomatoes. I like using grape or cherry tomatoes. I like getting different colors, so it kind of looks really cool and you get different tastes. It's entirely up to you. Next, you're going to need some basil, definitely fresh. Garlic, definitely fresh. Red wine vinegar, I got 2 here. I'm going to go over a couple options. Olive oil, and I've got balsamic vinegar. I got 4 different kinds here. I'm going to go over why, just so you understand what you're buying. And then last thing you're going to need is some good old-fashioned bread. This is the stuff from Remington Wine Shop we went over in the last episode. So let's get cooking, and here we go. All right, so when I cut the tomatoes for this, I like to cut them into 12 pieces. So I cut them in half, lay them flat, cut it down the middle, and then cut it 2 more times and get nice little even squares. This seems to be the perfect size for me. It's really up to you. So once you get your tomatoes chopped and everything, go ahead and put them in a tall, skinny cup or jar. You can put it in like a bowl and stick it in your fridge. I just find that it's really hard to stick a big bowl in your fridge. So this tends to work a lot easier for me. And then when I dish it, I can just spoon it right out of the cup. So we'll talk more about that later. Now, I'll teach you a quick little trick about garlic. Once you get it all chopped up like that, sprinkle a little bit of kosher salt on it. Take your knife and grind the salt into the garlic. It'll like really open it up. Really good way to get it all crushed down so that it spreads out evenly in this dish. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, basil. So one thing you gotta know about basil is it bruises really easily. So when you cut it, you don't want to crunch down, you want to cut across. That's why they'll teach you to roll up your basil, lay leaves on top of it, and you roll it up. And this is called a chiffonade, or also ribbons. So instead of pushing down, we want to cut across. This will keep the basil from bruising and keep the flavor and everything intact. And what you get is these nice chiffonade ribbons. Now, if you want it to be more chopped up, you can. Not a big deal. I like it this way. I think it's good. I'm going to throw it in there. We're going to use more later to put it on top when it's done, but this is kind of like for our marinade. Because what we're going to do is we're basically going to pickle these tomatoes a little bit. And that's what's going to take them from like a tomato to a balsamic vinegar deliciousness. Okay, so you're going to need a 1/2 cup of red wine vinegar. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of balsamic vinegar. You're going to need a 1/2 cup of olive oil. Go ahead and throw a pinch of salt in your cup. Pour your vinegars on top and your oils on top, and stir, 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 stir. So at this point, we have like our really awesome marinade done. So what I like to do is add tomatoes to this until it basically stops covering the tomatoes. We can add more garlic and more basil and stuff later if we need it. What we're trying to do is pickle the tomatoes. So now we're pretty much filled up with tomatoes and goodness. Go ahead and put a lid on it and stick it in the fridge for a minimum of 30 minutes. Okay, so real quick about vinegar. Most balsamic vinegar in the United States is not like real balsamic vinegar. Real balsamic vinegar is really sweet and it's thick like syrup, and I'll show you that in a second. When you have real balsamic vinegar, you do not want to use it for a dish like this until the end. It's a finishing vinegar, like a finishing oil. You don't want to pickle it, you don't want to do anything with it. It's fine just the way it is. What you want to use for this is just a real simple balsamic vinegar, okay? So I'm going to lay these on this plate, and you can kind of see how they run down. And these are just simple, nothing too crazy balsamic vinegars, okay? When you start getting them into age, this is just a lightly aged one. It's a little bit thicker, but not much. All you're gonna notice is really like a sweeter taste. This is real balsamic vinegar. It's probably about $45 a bottle, but you can see how thick it is. When you taste it, it's like grape syrup. It's like this sweet, awesome like syrup. We want to use that on the top to glaze it. But if you don't want to use that in the actual pickling, because you're just wasting your money. So choose a simple balsamic vinegar for that. Feel free to taste it. If you can't taste it and like it, then you're not going to like it in your dish. If you have any questions about vinegars, let me know. We can talk more about this, but let's keep going. Talk to you about ovens real quick. There's really only two temperatures you need to know that you're really going to use. 350 to 375, because on these ovens, you're not going to get that close between the two anyway. And then 425 to 450. If you're looking to brown and crisp stuff and roast things and get a crust, 425 to 50. If we want to heat it up and just slowly cook it, 350, 375. For bread, we're going to do 425. Okay, so once you pull your bread out of the oven, this is a little bit too much done. This is probably about perfect. You want to cut it when it's hot. So you're going to want to use a towel because it will burn you, and you want to cut it on a 45-degree angle. The reason we do this is not to look cool. The reason we do this is to make the bread longer so that we can put more stuff on it. So let's cut out little pieces. Listen to that crunch. With a bread knife, don't push down, go across faster and it'll bite and do its own thing. And here's why fresh bread matters. We still have this nice chewiness in the center, but we also have this nice crunch when they bite down on it, okay? Now, one thing you need to know, and it's the same for cheeseburger bread too. If you put oil on this and vinegar, it's gonna go right through and suck in. So one thing I would suggest I've kind of learned over the years is you can do one of two things. You can put a little bit of olive oil down on like a lid and just touch the bread at it real quick, or use like a little Pam sprayer or like a little olive oil pump sprayer. So I just put a little bit of oil on it. And mayonnaise on a cheeseburger is the same thing. That's what keeps the fat from going through and soaking up the bread and ruining the cheeseburger. So, a little oil on each one. Need a little bit more. Now, if you want to like just soak up all the juice and get crazy, you don't have to do this step. And it'll just absorb it all and it'll get crazy and you'll have a awesome time. Okay, so we got all that good. Okay, to dress them, go ahead and stir it up. Kind of scoop it to the side and then drop them on top. I like to get kind of messy with it here, and then when I get to the plate, it'll look nice. I like to kind of stack them. And one thing, if you notice, I'm draining out most of the liquid when I dump the tomatoes, so you don't want to coat it too much in liquid. We can add more liquid if we need it, but you don't want it so drippy that a guest can't even pick it up. All right, so put these on our plate. And there you have it. Delicious rustic bruschetta that will definitely get you invited back. Okay, so I don't want this show to be overly complicated. I want it to be simple because food's simple and food's delicious. We could do a lot of things with this. You could do a balsamic on top, like a real balsamic. You could do fresh basil on top. You could put mozzarella on it and kind of make it a caprese. You could put Parmesan cheese on top. But here's the thing, it doesn't need it. Well, thank you for joining me on Life Should Be Delicious. I hope you enjoy the bruschetta, and I'm gonna go bribe some bicycle people with bruschetta. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.